Hello, true believers! I've been talking about so many mainstream comic book titles lately that I've been neglecting a lot of independent comic book titles. There's a universe called Class Comics, which I've talked about a couple of their titles in the past, but recently they released a second issue to their Mako Finn series. This is basically their version of AquaMan, and I figured, you know what, I want to talk about that. But then I realized I hadn't talked about issue number 1 yet, so let's go ahead and go into that. Mako Finn issue number 1. This was written by Patrick Fillion and it was illustrated by Jacob Mott. If you're not familiar with the Class Comics universe, let me inform you that their sexualities are inversed as compared to many other comic book universes, meaning that about 90% of the characters are LGBT and the other 10% are very heteroflexible. And like I said, Mako Finn is somewhat like an Aquaman character. He's sort of like the gay version of Aquaman, although some people question Aquaman's sexuality, but we won't go into that. This isn't Mako's first appearance in the Class Comics universe. He appeared previously in strip show number 1, but this is the first comic book where he has a full-on story taking place. Mako's origin is described in issue number 2, so I'll wait to talk about that in the next video. But his abilities include him being able to communicate with sea life, he can also swim underwater, and he has some levels of invulnerability, or at least he has to, in order to survive the depths of being deep underwater. This issue has the full range of an introductory issue, where we start to go into the story, and we also get introduced to the supporting cast. We get introduced to Danny Kipling, who happens to be Mako's lover, and he's also a survivor of a shark attack. Aubrey Lennox, somewhat like a nerdy character that's just started working with Mako. Warren Wessel, who happens to be the heterosexual romantic brother of Mako. Gretchen Gale, the wife of Warren, who happens to also be the only female in this issue. And Aquino, who was introduced in strip show number 1 with Mako. We also have the main villain being very prominently shown, which happens to be a character by the name of Piranha. He happens to have mutant sharkmen at his disposal because this is an undersea adventure. Mako works for an ecological protection agency called ORCA, which stands for the Oceanic Research and Consultation Agency. The issue is pretty straightforward and leaves off on a huge cliffhanger. An interesting note is even though this takes place in an alternate universe, there are a lot of parallels with our own universe having to do with all of the ecological problems happening with our oceans. There's a letter afterwards with a couple different websites if you're a conservationist and you're interested in seeing how you can help out. Anyways, really good issue, loving the artwork with it. I love Jacob Mott's style. I always felt like his art style could be translated very easily into some sort of animation format. The only difference for this as opposed to many other animations is that it would be very gay and very adult, which I don't think anyone would have any problems with that. Well, no, there'd be some people that would have problems with it, but I don't think they would be checking it out. But really good issue, really impressed with it. I'll be doing a video on issue number 2 very soon. If you're interested in getting this, you want to go to classcomics.com and you can order it from there. That's it for now. Thank you guys for joining me in this comic book review. Be sure to check out my Patreon site, my social media sites, my websites, and everything else out there. Peace, love, namaste, and I'll see you guys later. Peace. I had one little issue with a piece of anatomy on Mako himself, although Patrick made it very clear that that anatomy is supposed to be very soft, despite the fact that it's drawn to be very sharp. So, I'm assuming that it retracts and it's something that's inserted and taken out very easily.